Hey, good evening. We're going to go ahead and start this. We're about a minute early. My name's Scott Minton. I'm the city manager. I recognize almost everybody here. This is on the calendar as a water conservation town hall. Is that what it is? Yeah, I should know. It's been a couple of months since I put it up there, but the intent of this is to talk about as a community for anybody who's interested in water conservation techniques at the household level. That's what this was really intended for. Hot weather, we're in a drought contingency plan. And this was for folks in the community to get together and talk about things you can do, they can do, techniques, tactics, procedures, stuff like that to help conserve water for all different kinds of reasons. So that's the real intent of this evening. Couple of ground rules here. Nobody is a nefarious person here. This is not a MMA match. This isn't a grudge match. This isn't somewhere where you come and beat people up. Frankly, I'm the city manager, but I'm not anybody's punching bag, and I won't stand for that. And I don't expect anybody else to stand for it. So that's not what we're here for. We're here to have open dialogue and come up with answers for questions and things like that. So some of the ground rules are treat everybody with dignity and respect, give everybody the opportunity to talk if they want to talk. If you don't want to listen, at least act like you're listening. And then, we'll get through that kind of stuff and then discuss things objectively, cogently, and see if as a community we can come up with some ideas for saving water for all kinds of things. In some cases, maybe even saving some money. And then opening dialogue for the future for directions that we might want to go as a community. That being said, I've introduced myself already. Mr. Pat Gallegos to my right, Public Works Director, Kelly McClellan, Animal Control and Community Services, and our esteemed mayor, Mr. Mike Davidson. And then most of you probably know each other, and then we'll take it from there. Before I get started with slides, does anybody have any comments, concerns, questions, anything that they want to get on the floor that they want to address tonight that we might be able to talk about? Okay, I'm good with that. First slide, if you would bring up the water. Oh, where were we? It's possible. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to take a look at a couple of those things in a minute. Okay. Right. So, and I'll repeat the question. And that's the reason the microphone's there. So I know some of us might be uncomfortable with the microphone, but we're recording. And so if you see the far left bottom corner where that green thing's going up and down, it's really, we can hear each other here, but the sound system picks it up better with this for recording and whatnot. So if you're not comfortable with it, I'll go ahead and repeat the question. I think I got the essence of it. There are some people in town whose bills they feel have gone up substantially. And one of the culprits, and we'll talk about these in a minute, could be water leaks and things like that cause the water utilization to go up, or the throughput through the meters to go up. And what if I have a water leak? How can I tell if I have a water leak? The water doesn't always leak up. Sometimes it leaks down. How would I know? We'll take a look at some of those techniques in a slide presentation that I have, and then we'll discuss it after that. I think we'll cover it pretty soundly. Okay. All right, cool. I think now, would anybody up here like to address it before we start? Okay, cool. Let's go to the first slide that talks about the water rates. Bring that up to full screen. We had a soundtrack, would be the Jeopardy song. Okay, so we need a 14-minute. To understand our water rates, bills, etc., for people in this city, you have to understand this table. And most of us are kind of looking over here, so I'll get up in a minute. And is there anybody, you know what, I'm just going to say it because that way I don't really understand it. I don't want to be embarrassed by bringing it up. So I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to talk myself through it. You have to understand how these rates work first. And I know that some people feel like, and tonight really was, the intent wasn't to be about water bills and stuff like that, but we'll cover that, and I'm glad we're gonna. But in 2016, and keep in mind, the city of Portales had not changed any water rates for years and years and years. In 2016, if you used between zero, not even the first drop of water, you didn't use any drop of water, but you had water service, you were going to get billed $16.68. And if you used 1 gallon, then 2, then 3, then 4, all the way up to 2,000 gallons, you were going to pay $16.68. That's it. If you went over 2,000 gallons and you went into 3,000 gallon bracket, you were going to start paying from that 3,000 gallons to 10,000, $16.68 plus $2.27 for every 1,000 gallons. Okay. We got it. Then after 10,000, if you got in the 11,000 bracket, it would jump up amazingly to $2.70. So about 42 cents more per 1,000 gallons. Okay. Well, over here in 2022, they voted to change that. It went up astronomically in the first year to 245, 1801. So it went up $2, less than $2, $1.50. 2024, it went to 1946, but they skipped that year. Ask them. 25, they kind of started to skip. Then we got back on track in 2026. So from 2016, your first drop of water cost you $22.69 up to 2,000 gallons. After that, if you use 2,000 and then some more, every 1,000 gallons after that initial 2,000 is $3.09. So if you used, I'd have to combine the first $22 plus whatever, but the maximum, you can look at what your maximum would be. It would be, if you went 10,000 gallons, it would be your initial $22.69 plus $3.09 times 8, which is what, $25. So it would be $22.69 plus 25 and some rounding errors. At 10,000 gallons used, the maximum your bill could be for water is $47. That's it. So there has to be some anomaly. When someone says, well, I'm only using 7,000 gallons, this won't pan out. If it's metered at 7,000 and they're telling us that they got a $300 water bill, it doesn't map out. So if I'm on Facebook and someone's like, I'm not using any more than 6,000, my bill is 400. It isn't. It isn't. It doesn't map out. If they're using 6,000 gallons, their bill is somewhere between $47 and $22. It's impossible for a 6,000 gallon bill to be $300. It just isn't. I'm not going to say who's telling a story bigger than it needs to be. I'm not going to say I know who's exaggerating. I'm not going to say any of those things. What I'm going to say is the math is there and it doesn't math out. Now, if someone has a $300 water bill, mind you, not utility bill, but my water bill, I can kind of reverse math this and give you an idea on probably how much water they're using. To get up to 300, this screen is hot, but to get up to, it is like the screen's up, but I can feel it like close. I won't step over there, but I get too far, I can't see. But I can almost go backwards and tell you when to get a $300 water bill, I kind of got to use X amount of gallons. So I kind of reverse it. It is what it is. But we need to understand, here's our volume in this box, and here's the rate for the increments of volume in this box. So when I see those or hear those things about these crazy water rates, I know in my heart of hearts, somebody has to look at their own meters or call the city and say, hey, where am I? How much water do you see me using? We'll talk about that. Or they have to do both. In my case, when the water meter person came out, I said, can you show me what you're reading? And so I can look at it myself. And she showed me how to flip the thing open. She goes, if this is moving at all right now, something in your house is using it wrong. It wasn't. But so I said, well, can you keep that open? I'm gonna go turn something on and I want to see it move. She's like, yeah, sure. So she kept it open. I'm gonna turn something on and see the meter move. Okay. So one of the things to your question is when the water comes from the city and then it crosses the boundary to where you build for it. Once it crosses that boundary to where you build for it, if you know that everything's turned off in your house, we'll discuss it more. And that thing's moving, something's leaking. Something is allowing water to come from the city, crossing the threshold to your unit, and then being used in some fashion, intentionally or unintentionally, and it keeps moving. But that meter is moving, and that's a problem because you have to pay for it. I'm going to back up for a second. I saw a comment where someone said, "Water is a basic human right. You shouldn't pay for it," and I wholeheartedly agree. If I'm in the woods, in the wild, in the middle of nowhere, maybe the Amazon, and there's water, and I am thirsty, it's a basic human right for me to be able to grab some of that water and drink it. Now, if I'm near the Amazon and I want someone to bring me that water, they don't owe me anything. I can't look at another human being, agency, entity, or someone from space and say, you owe it to me for you to bring me that water. That's not a right. That's not a basic human thing. When an agency, entity, or anything else delivers something, largely what we are paying for is that delivery and the treatment of that. So when I see a comment and someone says, you shouldn't charge for water, we all, I could argue, are paying for the delivery and the purification and the that. I don't argue that it's a human right. I argue that it's not necessarily a right for someone else to deliver it to me. Just a thought. Okay. Do we have any questions kind of on this rate schedule?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so now. If, oh, yeah, the microphone. Okay. Is it, I don't, is it, okay, good. All right, so on year 4, you start out at 2269, but then you are using whatever, 31 to 100 gallons of water, 100,000.
That's
And then-
units, yeah, per thousand, but yeah.
Okay, so you go to 4880, but then you have to add each of the increments above that rate. Is that what I'm understanding?
I think so. That's how it works, right? For billing?
Yeah.
So-
It's,
Go ahead, please.
So the top rate is your base rate, just for
Okay.
service.
okay, that's
20, yeah,
okay.
2269. Once you pass 2,000 gallons, each 1,000 gallons is based at $3.09 for 1,000 gallons. Once you hit over 10,000 gallons, you start going to the higher rate of $8.97 for every 1,000 gallons after that. It's kind of like your taxes. Once you hit a certain milestone, it goes up or down, depending on how you are. But this is how the rates are, and then they add it all up. So really what this structure was built for is for people not to use just a godly amount of water, which at over 100,000 gallons, they start getting billed at $130 per 1,000 gallons. And unfortunately, still in town, we have people doing it. So, on average, 6,000 to 7,000 gallons per month for a household. So when you get to that rate, they're actually doing something else with the water. So, but the good thing is we do have a plan to help everybody. We're actually looking at a company to install better meters. We'll have better reads. And with those meters, it's going to come a customer portal. So where you can look at the house and we look on your phone and be like, okay, this is how much I use this one. And then you could, the one we're looking at also is going to be able to set parameters. Like, hey, warn me when I start getting to the 10,000 gallons, I want to know, and it'll alert you on your phone. So we're looking at stuff like that. Hopefully we'll have it in the next few months. And then it'll help everybody else with their bill. And I think that's some of the misunderstanding is how this chart actually works. So you don't hit these rates until you hit certain milestones of gallons. So as long as most households are not gonna go above the 3.09 per thousand gallons, so.
Alright. So let's say you have your base rate.
Yeah.
And you used 20,000 gallons.
Okay,
Now. For the first 10,000, you're paying 309.
Well-
And the next rate over 10, you're paying now 489, or is it just a total of the 489?
no, that is 97.
Right.
So the first 2,000 gallons are included in $22.
Right.
So from 2,000 to 10,000, that's 3.09.
Mhm.
And then if you go over that, the rest of it will be at the 8.97 per thousand. So, and then that's all totaled up. And that's what your water rate will be.
The mayor's probably gonna want to weigh in, but you also get a 999 gallon barrel, so it actually saves you to $11 at 309. Because the higher price starts at 11,000 gallons, so you can go to 10,999. And you pay 309. Without, yes, without, for the time hit, but that's the base. What else, you start no drops of water, you don't go on vacation, and literally live your best life, literally your best life. And then, you don't consume water, you're still paying that service fee. And then assume there's no leaks or anything, the household is tight, we're gonna come back to that one for the water bill. Water bill, not trash, not so, water bill funds yours.
And to be clear, so you're paying this much for the first 2,000, then for the up to 11,000, this rate, and then for what's over this rate, you're not paying that highest rate for every 1,000 gallons you're getting. So when someone says that they had an $800 water bill, that means somehow 40,000 gallons ran through their meter. If water is leaking in the street, there is no customer paying for that. That is on the city side. Water must go through the meter for anyone to be paying for it. So to get an $800 water bill means they're using 40,000 gallons of water. Now, in the state of New Mexico, and Portales actually, the average is 6,000 gallons per month for a family. So when somebody is using 40,000 gallons, they're using 6 or 7 families worth of water. And that's why the rates are so extensive, is to prevent the overuse. This is categorized as conservation and conservation measures. The alternative to that is restriction or rationing, whereas you get 2,000 and you get 2,000 and someone else gets 2,000. We want to do everything we can to avoid that. This is essentially saying you can use as much water as you want to, but once it gets to a certain level, it's going to be much more expensive. And that is for conservation purposes, so that everybody does have water. The rates of Portales, to give you another example, is in 2007, after you got past that base rate, the price was $1.48 per 1,000 gallons. Until the rates went up recently, that 1,000 gallons after the base rate was $2.45. So the price increased for 1,000 gallons by 97 cents in 19 years. And that's one of the issues that's one thing that has been causing issues for the city of Portales, is while utility rates, meaning watering and sewer only, in this case, not gas or electricity, but in the past few years, in that same time frame, utility rates went up 93%. Portales water rates went up 8%. It's not sustainable. Inflation went up 47%, minimum wage went up 60%. Home insurance went up 105%, but Portales rates went up 8%, and it's caused a very giant problem in the city of Portales. And in all honesty, the only thing the city of Portales is trying to do is break even. They're not trying to make a profit like a business would. All they want to do is not lose money. So that's why the rates were adjusted.
Are the sewer rates tied to the amount of water a household consumes?
They are. The winter months, you're billed by the gallon on sewer, but it's based on the 4 months during winter time. So your lowest use of the year is what your sewer rates are based on.
Okay, so far on the current billing structure, the amounts, et cetera, questions, comments, concerns, dialogue? Bueller. Someone got that. Thank you, Bueller. Okay, cool. This will be here. We can bring it back up if we want to go back to it. Let's go ahead and switch channels and go to the next slide deck. There's truth in lending. There's not going to be any magic in here. We're going to cover things that we probably heard before, but we're going to cover them and we'll see what happens here. Look at the goals there. How water is used in the home, hidden water losses, et cetera. Some of those things there, and we'll talk about them. And I don't think anybody's going to learn anything, but we're going to talk about them again. Because they're important, and maybe we can come up with some ideas amongst ourselves on better techniques or whatnot. But again, tonight was all about a town hall, and this is not uncommon, guys. There's not very many people here. This is actually quite a few people for a town hall. So congratulate yourself for being here and being concerned. I appreciate you being here. But next slide. I know we can all read, but I'm going to help you just in case you're outside a reading glass range, which I find myself very often. Why it matters, every gallon does count. It's going to count a lot more in the future. We did talk about that 999 gallon discrepancy in between grading periods. Technology is great. I think it's awesome. As we invest in infrastructure support, like more digital meters and more accurate metering, you can expect to see that gap close. So right now our unit of measurement is 1,000 gallons. It'll probably in the future close quite substantially, maybe even down to the gallon. So it'll make a difference. Now the good and the bad with that. The bad is you don't get away with getting billed for 10,000 gallons when you use 10,999. We all are gonna pay for that 999 gallons. On the other side of that, we're gonna pay for only what we get. And we get what we pay for as we move forward. So every gallon will count if it's not already. But by paying attention to some of these techniques, we want to lower our household utility bills. We don't want to sell water, to be honest with you. We provide water for those of us that need it. We don't want to sell it. But the mayor brought up a point, and he's not wrong. We just have to add the piece that it's not that we want to break even when we sell water. By law, we have to. We can't undercharge. And there's things that happen that are really bad economically when we undercharge. And I've heard people on I guess I didn't hear it on the internet. I read it, right? I read it, but people like they're lining their pockets. You need to audit the city. I am here to guarantee you the city is audited at least once every year. So the New Mexico Department of Finance Administration audits every city in New York every year. They start around April. They finish the audit and with your audit findings around June. Every year we get audited. And they go through all of your enterprise funds, all your general funds, et cetera, including this. So for anybody who's interested and they ever ask you or tell you that city needs to be audited, tell them you are right. And they're going to be audited and then count the months from wherever you are in the calendar to April and just say in 4 more months, that gosh darn city is going to be audited because they will, because it's a law and we do. Okay. So every gallon counts. We want to lower household utility bills. We want to protect the groundwater supply. Everybody here knew we're a groundwater municipality. Anybody not know that? It's okay. We're groundwater. Basically 2 types, groundwater, surface water. If you get your water from a lake or a stream, you're a surface water municipality. If you pull it from the ground using wells, you're groundwater, just so you know. We need to protect, everybody needs to protect every drop of groundwater they can from the Okalala Aquifer because it takes thousands of years for all that water to get in there. And it takes only a couple hundred, if that, to take it all out. We're on the bad side of the 100. So we all need to slow our roll down a little bit to conserve what we have because it's going to take a lot longer to replenish that than it does to use it. So we got to slow that down as much as possible. Accounting for your water and not wasting it, it reduces strain on infrastructure. There was a water main that broke yesterday. Water mains, you know, this one was cast iron with a concrete lining. A lot of water utilization puts stress like anything else. You put a lot of roads on the highway, it wears out. Put a lot of water through the lines, they wear out. And everything, you know, has a expiration date, including those lines. So the less we put through there, theoretically, the longer infrastructure lasts. The more water we put through there, the more we got to change filters, the more we got to change pumps, the more we have to do maintenance on the well fields, all of those things. So it lowers the overall cost and it increases the lifespan of the things that it takes to deliver that water. Okay. And then all of those things together promotes long-term water sustainability. Believe it or not, your city is required by code to maintain a 40-year water plan. And all of these factors go into that stuff, but we're constantly having to revise that 40-year water plan, et cetera. A lot of things happen in this game of managing cities that people don't really understand. And it's okay. We love, you know, conveying the information, but it's a very complex concept of managing all of this. It's kind of, people ask me like, what's it like to be a city manager? I'm like, I think it's a lot like balancing a rocking chair on a beach ball. And if you can master that, probably, you know, take a swing at doing some of this stuff. All right, next slide. Oh, here's really, this is the essence of it. It kind of gets to what we were talking about earlier. What drives higher bills? In this case, we already know how the water is billed. So there's really only a couple things that can make the water bill go up. You use more water, or there's a meter malfunction, someone misread the meter, or there's a billing error. Now, consumption includes water leaks. I can turn on a spigot and I can use the water, that's consumption. Or some kind of maintenance issue, something broke or whatever on my side of the meter to where water is somehow running and it's on my side of the meter and I'm responsible for it. My side being the customer, 100%. Yeah, I have a house too. I live here. I pay a water bill. Actually, if you ask the water people, they would say I don't pay it because they come in and they're like, Mr. Minnie, we're about to cut your water off. I'm like, sorry, I forgot. And then I go pay it. So it's arguable. I do pay it. I'm kind of lazy about doing it. Next slide. Here's some of the things that is, and we know these things, we got them, we understand them, but we really don't, I think, process how incremental and detrimental these things are. A leaking toilet that if it hisses too long after you flush it for whatever reason, all that hissing, initially it's filling, and then as water seeps down, you hear that hissing. It's because it's continually filling. It's designed to stop at a certain point. If it doesn't make that shh and stop, that water is just coming in and going out, and it's a lot of water. Dripping faucets. I don't know how someone could stand a dripping faucet. That sound keeps me up at night. Running faucet sprinkler leaks are huge. For people who have sprinklers and things like that, I get if you live in apartments, that probably don't worry about it. But for those of us who have a house and we have sprinklers set up, these are huge culprits. You know? And for those of us that mow our lawn real close, and we hit 2 sprinkler heads last month. Anybody else know? Okay, yeah. me. You gotta replace those because it's bad. Broken sprinkler heads, some of us, me, fell in that category. Underground service line leaks on the property owner's side of the meter. That water is still being delivered. If something breaks in there, if it's past the meter, the property owner is responsible for it. Overwatering landscapes, meaning you're watering more than you need. Garden hoses left on, well, I would say the spigot, but you know, you get what I'm saying. And then evaporative cooler issues are kind of a big deal, especially if they're hard lined into the house. Swamp coolers that have a hard line on them, you're running them. A lot of times they're like over watering the thing and it's causing a significant loss of water. And these things, as we'll see in a minute, these are significant. These go into the thousands of gallons, you know, of water. And we don't really think about it, or I don't too much until I get the bill. Yeah, for sure.
While you're at that, I'll tell you a true story is, the dripping faucets. We had a bathroom that we did not use and it had a drip in there. And being the musician I am, I timed the drip and figured out how many drips per minute and calculated it. And it had been running for months and months and months. My sweetheart says, you know, you do have a water page. I think you might ought to fix the drip in your house. So I went in there and shut it off, and we were going to get the bathroom remodeled later, but that drip that I had not been paying attention to for a long time weighs 2,000 gallons a year. And that is a substantial, and that drip did not look that big. When we finally did get the bathroom remodeled and they went under our house to areas that I certainly can't get to, there were other leaks under that house. There's so many houses in Portales that are 70 and 80 and 90 years old and older that the plumbing has just literally worn out. And so when somebody says I don't have any drips at my house, I would not bet on that because they're not all available. And when added up, and the same goes for leaking toilets, they can add a substantial. And I want to say, I heard criticism about the city. They tell everybody they got a leak. My office sits outside the water billing window, and just sitting in that office for the few hours a day, sometimes even a week that I do, I can't tell you the number of times that the ladies have worked with people and said, did you use 20 gallons at 2 o'clock in the morning? They said, no, I was asleep. Well, you lost 20 gallons or 30 gallons in the middle of the night. So a lot of times that's a running toilet, and a running toilet will run your water bill up like crazy without even thinking about it. So those are just some real life experiences that I wouldn't know. When water was as cheap as it was, those problems don't surface, and they don't, in a sense, they don't take on as much importance. But when the water rates go up, all of a sudden they become a lot more important.
So has anybody received a phone call from the water department about their water? Okay, cool. Anecdotally, my son lives in this grown man, my son, daughter-in-law, and my granddaughter. They live in town. They live off J Street. My son said, I got a really weird call yesterday from the water department. He's like, Dad, do they do this? I'm like, what was it called? He said they called and asked if I water my lawn and if I water it between these hours. And I said, yeah, they probably did that. And then he said they were very pleasant. He just wanted to make sure it wasn't somebody scamming him. But the water department, if they see an anomaly, they will call. And they were okay with it. They were like, okay, here's where you are. Here's how much. And he was like on 8,000 gallons for the month. And they called and they said, we see that you're using water from like 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night. You say, yeah, I like to water at night. And they're like, okay, you're paying for the bill. But the point there is for the stuff that you read on Facebook. Now, Facebook is amazing. I like it. It entertains me. And I see these comments and I just shake my head because I know in my heart of hearts that what I see people writing, I'm like, this water department, they will call you. They will call And they can tell when you use water. And I've gone in there and I'm like, hey, well, just show me, pull one up, and show me what you mean. And she's like, okay, here's 3 o'clock last night. Somebody in this household used the restroom. Like, how do you know that? They're like, we can see it. No water, no water, no water, 11 gallons. And then no water, no water. Someone got up, used the restroom and whatever. They can tell if water's being used. And so on. And they will call. Now, they're not going to call if you use the restroom. But if the water's left on at night, and it's consistent, they will call. Like if it's left on all night, they'll probably go, you know, it looks like someone left a garden hose on. If it's off the next day or something. But if it's consistent, there's a pattern, they'll call and they'll go, hey, you got a thing. And they're not mad at you. They're letting you know that this is happening. Do you know what's happening? In my son's case, he's like, yep, that's when I water my lawn. They're like, okay, thanks very much. Just want to check in. Yeah. And so on. So let's go on to the next slide. Gives you an idea. Small leak, hundreds of gallons a month, moderate leak, thousands of gallons a month. If it's a severe leak, like it sounds like it doesn't stop, you're looking at tens of thousands of gallons a month from one toilet. It's almost the same as just turning a faucet on and letting it run and going to work. Okay. If you're not sure when it comes to toilets, it's a good technique here. Open the back of the toilet, put some food dye in there. Doesn't really matter what color, right? I would use something that looks food dye color. I wouldn't put coffee in there. That'd be weird. But I would put like blue or something like that. And if you're not flushing the toilet, if you just put in the holding tank and the water stays clear, you do not have a leak. If you put food coloring or food dye in there and you don't flush the toilet and you see blue come in there, you've got a leak, even if you can't hear it. Simple food dye test. Okay, that'll help you. Questions on that? Next slide, please. Same concept. Little drips make a big difference. 5,600 connections in the city. All right. So we have 56 causes for metering. In each of those 5,600 meters, there's probably at least 2 faucets in each one, probably more like 10. If you go the internal, the external, the bathrooms, the kitchen, you know, any of those types of things where you hoses and all that, that's probably 6 to 10 opportunities for a single drip to get out. So if I had 56 connections and each house had 1 drip going, and they added up to the mayor's math of 2,000 per connection, that's 56,000 gallons of water that are going 1 drip at a time. If each of those houses had 2 drips, you could double the math. I'm not going to surprise anybody by saying 3 drips, triple it, et cetera, at this point. But you know, these add up. And at this point, are you going to really notice that much of a difference? 2,000 gallons at a single household at your wallet level per year? Probably not, because you're kind of given 999 gallons either way on each of those monthly things. But across the board, you know, if we had 2 drips are constantly going per connection in the city, and we're giving away 112,000 gallons of water. Now, when I say give it away, I'm not talking about financially. I'm talking about we're pulling 100-something thousand gallons of water out of the earth. We're treating it just to throw it away. And we need to do better. So all of us need to take a look at these kind of things, because when we really, really need it, 100,000+ gallons of water can go a long ways, you know? So drip by drip, we got to pull that stuff back and make sure we're not wasting. Something to think about. True story. We're going to talk about toothbrushing here in a minute, not down in the, you know, get behind your molars and stuff. We're just going to talk about turning the water off when you brush your teeth. The first class I ever took in college back in 1983, went from high school to college, first class. And this guy's talking about conservation and water. He's like, you really need to turn the water off when you brush your teeth. I thought he was crazy. Like, I don't even know how to brush my teeth without water running. It's cathartic. I like hearing it. But it never went away. And I don't know why. It stuck with me. And I still, to that day, 1983, I brush my teeth. I get my little toothbrush. It's not really that. It's almost sense. But I get it wet and I turn the water up and brush my teeth. And I get it wet again and all that, because that guy traumatized me. I never want to see him again. But it just stuck with me. And here we are so many years later, and these kind of things are making a difference, you know. So for what it's worth. Little bits of water here and there make a big difference. Next slide. If you water your lawns or whatever you have, things to look out for, broken sprinkler heads, don't mow them. Sprinkler spraying the sidewalks. If you're getting the concrete wet, you're paying to wet the concrete. That doesn't make any sense. Concrete's not gonna grow because we water it. If if your sprinkler system is set up to be evenly distributed across your lawn, and for some reason they turn and two sprinkler heads are watering one place, but not, dry patch, just an overwater one, so make sure they're evenly distributed. Figure out, do the math, figure out what kind of lawn, landscaping, or whatever you have, and give it just the water it needs, not overdone, and then watch for leaks around the house, okay? And check your system at least monthly. I do not like, it's very obvious. I don't like paying bills because I wait so long that, like I said, I'm not even trying to be funny. The ladies come in, they're like, Mr. Minton, you have to pay your bill. Okay, I'm so sorry. And, well, I guess because it's convenient. But I don't like paying them, and I certainly don't like paying any more than I need to. So I do this with my own system. Next slide. I think we probably know this. If we don't, it makes a lot of sense. If your lawn is kind of an even color, but one spot of your lawn is like really green, you probably have a leak. It's because the water is helping the grass there, right? If you walk across your normally fairly dry lawn and you find a soggy patch, you probably have a leak. Mushy spots go the same way. Grass is growing taller and faster in one area, probably getting some water you're not getting. If you a water puddle, okay, I don't even need to talk about that. And then sinkholes and depressions. If for no reason your front yard, backyard, or whatever, it starts to get a divot in it, a lot of times what's happening is somewhere near a pipe, the water's flowing by, it's escaping the pipe, it's making a canal along the side of the pipe, it's washing sediment with it wherever the water's going. As that sediment goes, the lawn starts to sink in a weird pattern. You probably have a leak. So if you have any landscaping lawns or anything like that, any of these things are happening and your bill's going up. I mean, I'm not Bill Nye, the science guy, but I could put those two things together. It's probabilistic. Next slide. Oh, increased water. If you have no indicators, your grass is not greener, you don't have any divots, there's no mushy spots, soggy spots, nothing like that. No fish in your front yard, whatever. But your water bill is increasing. The meter, when you go to check it, is you've turned all the spigots off and stuff, but the meter shows that water's flowing. You can't explain on why the bill is going up, and you call the water department or whatever, and the water's being utilized, and darn well nobody's home. Even though it looks dry and clean and clear and all that, you probably have a leak. Water doesn't always leak up. Gravity, right? Sometimes it leaks down. Sometimes it goes down and follows the pipe, and you don't have a divot in the lawn. And I see, just like you, I see a lot of traffic on Facebook. There is no way. My husband is a certified plumber. All right, my dad was a certified mechanic, and we had the crappiest cars in town. Okay, he fixed everybody else's stuff but ours. Just something to think about. Okay, yeah, and if you can't explain it, you really have to consider that you have a leak. As bad as we don't want to admit it, you have to, because like the very first thing we talked about, that first slide before this presentation, the one with the numbers on the white slide, if it doesn't math out. Right? I mean, that's going to math out. Volume on the meter multiplied by price per thousand, that's the thing. But if you go and I go and I'm going, I was in Italy living my best life. Why do I have a $300 water bill? That does not add up. Something's going on, and it's not the city lining their pockets. It's water is going past that meter somehow. So we have to realistically look and consider the fact that we have a leak and deal with that. Next slide. This is really cool. So that looks a lot like, well, if you were to add a couple Black Widows, that would look like my meter. So this is where I went out and met with the meter reader, and I'm like, how do I do this? She's like, just flip this up. Look at this number here. You're reading this one. And this one is, if it moves at all, water's moving. He's like, well, this one's broke. She's like, no, you just don't have any water. Like, oh, okay. So it's not moving up. Good point. All right. So 15-minute test. Turn off all the water in the house. Don't run your sprinklers. Everything's off. Look at the meter. Write down the numbers. don't turn anything on. Wait 15 minutes, come back. If those numbers changed, water's flowing by that meter. You have a leak, something's on. Okay? So check it again. If those numbers changed, you have a leak. As much as we don't want to admit it, as much as we don't talk about it. As certified as my husband is in plumbing, we have a leak. And we have to deal with that. Because it's not going to stop itself. It's going to keep leaking. Yes, ma'am.
Oh. Okay, our water meter is like, our water meter is like 3 feet underground and there's a lot of dirt on it. It's like, can the water department come dig it out so we can see the meter? Or how are they reading the meter when it's that far in the ground and covered? I mean,
I'll tell you what I can do, is we can, a lot of these are read,
electronic.
off a computer at our, station side, but, I even went in there. So what we can do is you can make a call and ask, you say, I'm at address, whatever, this is my account. Can you tell me can you tell me what my water is doing right now, where I am, et cetera? And ask about that and they'll help you out. Now, if they tell you, no, you're not on a handful, more than a handful. Some of them are like this, they're very analog. And in that case, now if you're telling me it's covered with dirt and 3 feet down, I'm going to tell you it's probably electronic. And if you can't see it and read it, then that's a problem that we need to deal with our meter reader and we'll handle that situation. Now, that's an employee issue, but most likely it's not. You're most likely on electronic one.
Well, we have seen it. We've had Jade, who works
Jade,
for the
yeah.
water department. She
Jade.
came out and it was like, there is a dial that goes around on it, so. But it's like, that's 3 feet down there. So
Yeah.
it makes it difficult.
Can we qualify something?
Because I understood that customers are not supposed to touch those meters. So is that something that we want the customers to? Yeah, okay. Okay, because a lot of those are locked. Locked tops.
Yeah, but we would still like to,
No.
yeah, and even automation has mistakes, so. And I'm not arguing, but it's like,
No.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, it's like,
you see a lot of mistakes.
yeah,
So.
all right.
So 15-minute leak test, if you have access and so on, the dye test and the toilet leak test, et cetera. Calling, if you think you have an anomaly, call Kathy, Ms. Rice. And say, hey, I suspect I have a leak. Can you help me out? They will, they'll pull it up. She can look and she can go, she'll be able to pull it up and go, yeah, you seem to use a couple gallons an hour all day long, and you'll get an idea. I highly recommend be very proactive on this. If your bill doesn't jive with what you think it should be, you got to dig in, and not literally like with a shovel, don't do that, but start with the water department and ask the questions and so on. I think they're ridiculously helpful. And I've stepped behind and asked her, hey, can I look at your screen? And she's like, yep, here it is. You can see water's being used right now. I was like, cool, can you pull up my address? And she's like, no water's being used. So I was like, thank you. But it really is happening. You can see them right there. It's almost creepy because you can kind of tell what's going on in a household. Like, oh, no one's home. Oh, someone showed up at 4:30. Oh, no one did anything for a while. Oh, someone else came home. Just by the spikes in the water usage, it's weird almost. Like, I feel guilty looking at it. So that is what it is. Next slide. Kind of what we're talking about. Track your usage, read the meter if you have access to it, ask for access, ask for digital access, watch for trends, compare month-to-month usage. Now, volume usage, right? That's what you're really looking for, volume, and then compare your volume. I can almost guarantee your volume will exactly match your bill on the prices, because the prices don't change. If they do change, it's a whole ribbon. I mean, we announce it, we have town halls about it, we have the city council, we have a pre-meeting about rates. Rates don't just go up. It's a thing. It took 3 months for us to even get rates up that were voted on 3 years ago, okay? So they don't just magically go up, but volume changes. Watch the volume and compare it with the rates, okay? Investigate unusual increases immediately and ask the city to help. They will 100% help, okay? Next slide. The more you're on top of it, I mean, really what this is saying is if you find some anomaly early and you get it fixed, you pay less for water that's wasted. And we keep that much water from being wasted. So the sooner we all respond, the more it helps all the way around. Next slide. Okay, so let's say we're living well and we're not losing water. Other things that we can do to stay within that 2,000 gallon bandwidth, you know, that first tier. If you're comfortable, shorten the showers. Do like my professor said, turn off the water while you're brushing your teeth. Only do laundry when you have a full load. Run full laundry loads, I think, or dishwasher, etc. When you have a full load. Water only when necessary. Water early or late, not midday, and fix those leaks immediately. I mean, just stuff that we kind of already know, but reinforcing. I mean, I go, and I think this is kind of what I thought that I intended to do when I put this on the calendar, but I do stuff to this point and try. I'm not like a Greenpeace weirdo, right? But my dog's really bougie and he'll drink out of his pan, but like a tiny piece of dog food gets in it or a fly, he won't drink. So I'll take that dog food water, true story. I'll go around and water my plants with it. You know, it doesn't make sense to me to go throw it out. So my plants don't care if I put a fly in it. So I water the plants with it and stuff like that. Hardly any water goes down the drain. I feel guilty if like rips a coffee cup out of my water. That's gonna you know. So just things like that. I'm not telling you to do that, but when you get in that mindset, then you'd be surprised. I have not bragging. I'm not bragging. I have a house that's way bigger than me. It's just my wife and I, and she's out of town most of the time. And between the dog and myself, and when my wife's there and people come over, I rarely pay more than the 2,000 gallon thing. So because maybe it's because I'm well, I'm with the dog. I don't know, but I just really I'm really water conscious. I'm not a Greenpeace person per se, but I just, like I said, that college professor traumatized me when I was 18. So think of what it's worth. Next slide. Yeah, if you have landscaping, just some points. Most of us know these things. Don't water in the middle of the day when it's super hot. A lot of your water is just going to evaporate. Looks like we're going to water now. I mean, our pail doesn't come. Okay, check sprinkler coverage monthly so you're not overlapping it. We covered some of these. Throw some mulch down so it holds the water, stuff like that. Consider drought tolerant landscaping. Okay, anybody learn anything here? It's okay if you didn't. All right, good talk. Next slide. Bill goes up and it doesn't align with what you think you used. Talk to somebody. Watch your meter. Look for those damp spots, sprinklers. Make sure they're operating normally. We're kind of starting to be redundant now. Unexpected usages, spikes, green patches in a lawn, standing water, et cetera, et cetera. Next slide. The city will help you. I think, like the mayor was saying. Obviously, I would be biased. If I was in the audience, I'd go, he's just saying that because he works there. But if you spend any time out in the front lobby, I think you'll see people who are ridiculously helpful. If you call the billing department, you talk to Miss Rice or somebody else, if you want to come in and look at it and you ask, could I see the screen and you can show me how it works? I confirmed with Miss Rice today. I said, would you be open to somebody come? They can't have a long line all day long, but if you wanted to come in and just get a little class on what they see on the other side electronically, she's like, yeah, I'd love to show somebody how it works. It's so difficult to read Facebook posts, but having looked at the other side of the computer, like they just don't add up. You know what I mean? And I know we tell stories and we do things to get dramatic effect and that. When you really see the people who are willing to help you and you really see how far they're willing to bend over backwards to show you the stuff. Now, they can't fix a leak from the computer, but they can go, you have water though. They can't tell you what it is, but they can say at this minute, unless someone's home, you have water run. And they can show you that. And it's It's pretty compelling. It's very compelling, you know, on that. So I encourage you, ask the city to take a look. If you feel like your usage is not jiving with what your volume is showing on your meters and your bills and stuff, ask somebody from the city to go take a look. People have flaws, right? If my meter reader goes out there and is having a bad day and all of that, it could go down there wrong, but when they write it down. But what I'll tell you is, if the meter reader comes out with this whack number, usually they go back several months and they're like, you know, this number isn't really consistent with the last several months. Then they'll go back to the last year. And they're like, well, it's June, almost July. What did they use last June, last July? I'm like, this isn't consistent with that either. Go back and reread the meter to see if they looked at an 8 as a 6, or a 6 as an 8, or 6 as a 9 or something. They'll go to that first, and those types of things on that. So they really do. Next slide. Remember this stuff. Next slide. Might be the end here. Okay. And this is kind of a closing comment. You're the first line of defense for your own water utilization. You're the first line of defense for your own bill. If it has an anomaly in there, do your own investigating first. If it doesn't add up, then call us and we'll help you take a look at it. But be open to the fact that you might have a leak. Okay. Be open to the fact that you might be using more water than you think. Be open to the fact that our beautiful Facebook warriors might just be a little over the top in some of their assessments and whatnot.
So to put something in perspective and to know when you possibly do have a problem, the 2,000 gallon per month category, the lowest category, is your bill at when the prices increased is gonna go up $15.71 plus tax. That's for water, sewer, and trash. If you are the average user of 6,000 gallons per month, then that bill is going to go up $20.91 a month. So nobody likes a bill increase, but both of those, as billing increases go, for the number of years it took to have that increase, are reasonable increases. And the other thing too is water is literally the new gold. So the important thing about conserving now and getting the leaks fixed now, there is no way to avoid the fact, everybody here, Clovis, everybody, water rates are going to continue to go up, at least water rates. Other rates probably will go up just to adjust for inflation. So that's not wonderful news, but it is transparent news and realistic news. So it's important to get these, the water that we save right now is the cheapest water we're ever going to have. So as time goes by, we will be paying more.
We don't need new, we have a dog that's common. We need to know.
All right. I think you have, most people, I think, will, want to be visitor. I'm not sure we've ever met, but I sent out to the counselors, it's just good FYI, if somebody's like, the city's doing this and this and this, just take this away. And I think that counselors and a lot of other people in the city didn't know this, and I didn't know it. I learned it. You learn something new every day, literally. But I have to sign all these contracts. And so a month or so ago, I got a contract from the Department of Environmental Department, I don't know, engineers, I don't remember which one. I think it was environmental. But we lease, so the city leases land to mine the waterfront. Right? So we do a land lease. I think it's like $140,000 a year. And we sign that lease 5 years at a time. And in that lease, it says right there, it says first year is 140,000. Second year will be 140,000 multiplied by 0.039 or something like that, which means it's going to go up 3%, 3.9%. That's going to be a new number. And then this third year, multiply that new number by 0.039%. Then the fourth year, that new number by 0. The point is, every year, Portales pays more on its land lease for the water rights to pull the water. Yet, like the mayor explained, for 16 or 20 years, they didn't increase. with it. We literally were paying more to pull the water from the earth than we were passing on the bill to ourselves as citizens. And then I can go down the whole economics thing and whatnot, but as the city manager, the first line that says you're responsible for the budget. Right? And so I'm not even gonna go into folks performing anything like that. But what we have been doing is taking general fund money. That's the money that pays for your roads, your police department, your fire department, dispatch, your library, community services, animal control. That's all general funding. Water is enterprise funding. We've been taking money from general funds to cover the gaps where we weren't paying the right amount on the enterprise. We were subsidizing the water. And that you're not supposed to do that. It's not fundamentally mathematically what you're not supposed to do. By statute, you're not supposed to do that. The finance authority says you will charge what it costs to make this good or service. If you need a subsidy, I have to go back and say, hey, finance authority, I need approval to subsidize this for this amount of time. And here's what, and they may or may not approve it. But somehow, once upon a time, it got to not a great system. And I consider this, although it seems like a glitch right now, and it seems uncomfortable, but I consider this as a community very lucky that we are making adjustments before we literally ran out of financial money. So that's what I mean. So, questions, comments, concerns? Karaoke. Yeah, and trust me, we have letters. I mean, we got letters from the state going, okay, we're gonna approve this, but you need to look at that. And we're willing to go down. Glad we're looking at stuff that maybe there's a little bit more. One of the criticisms I got, the other question.
Just each one. In terms of that land lease, is that a private entity that owns that? And it's that.
I think we lease it from the state, you know, it's state.
So we pay the state. Thank you. So this is more. When I get the 17 wells, but my issue is that the state of New Mexico sending money to the municipality, the state of New Mexico. I think that's what.
Okay, comments?
How are the well fields doing now that the weather's getting hotter?
Well, that's about, I mean, the floor is open for discussions, other techniques, you know, the dye test in the toilet. You wanna try that, if you have to call or call the city, or do both. Those types of things, but really, you know, originally this was about coming together and talking about things that we do to conserve water and things, but, you know, since a lot of the internet chatter came on, it was worth discussing that as well. But honestly, folks, I think that, you know, when you look at both sides of the meter, and I really mean that, like, if you come look at the computer screen for your own house, you'll see whether it's the water's moving. You do some of these tests, the meter test on it, you will see. And if you really look, and I'm surprised that more people don't, well, actually, at this point, I'm not surprised that more people don't. But when you look at the price per volume, and then you math out your volume as billed and the price, it just adds up. It adds up. It adds up. The only time it doesn't, like, no, not even then. It will add up even if you have a leak, because the volume will come through. The only thing then is like, oh my gosh, I wasn't here. I was in Utah or whatever. And this can't be true. I wasn't home. Well, the truth of the matter is somehow that will always get back. There is the thing where we could have, when we talk about it, we could have a bad meter reader, something, and we go back and recheck, but generally this all adds up. Doesn't matter what Facebook says. But it just doesn't matter. Now, I'm sure the Facebookers will be like, he's wrong, he's lying in his pockets. He keeps talking about Italy and that's how it goes because he takes the money. It just doesn't. What's that? Yeah, all of that, you know, yeah, so.
Did I hear you right? There are multiple residents.
I didn't say that, but there, you'd be surprised how many people are at the really high use.
You're right, it wasn't you who said it, but someone did say it, and that is argument at the residential level.
Yeah, it's a residential.
So it's not the children's home.
I mean, there are, yeah, it's $1,000 now. How much do you want?
We have multiple high users that are getting close to $1,000 bills. Yes. Most of those are water and gas pretty regularly. So some of them will complain, some of them know what they're doing. And keep doing it.
Yeah, and the city calls them. You know, it's at every high volume user of the city, so. I just think that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I was gonna just say, one place people don't think of where they might have a leak that's really hard to diagnose, I know because it happened to me, is underneath the house.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, I live in an 80-year-old house. It's got a crawl space. You can't fit under there, but it's got a crawl space. And I went from, I'm just a single person. And I'm usually right around 1,000 to 1,500 gallons a month. And I went up to 9,000 gallons. It didn't happen all at once. It went up gradually over time. And I had the toilet replaced.
Yeah.
And when they replaced the toilet, they had to replace part of the drains. In order to get to the drains, they had to cut a big section out of the dining room floor to get underneath the house to redo the piping. And that's when they discovered the freshwater intake comes in and comes under the foundation in one corner of the house, and it kind of zigzags under the house and then comes up. And the leak, freshwater leak, was actually underneath the house. You couldn't even see it from outside. And with all the taps off, exactly what you said, the meter was still clicking over just a little bit.
Yeah, it's important. The beauties, the wonders of homeownership, isn't it? It's great to tell the moment it's not great. But yeah, true story. There's stuff like that happens. I haven't had it happen here, but I've had it happen. Yeah. Comments, concerns? Going once? Twice? Okay, guys, this is a wrap. Thanks for being here.